Hi and welcome to Blue Sky Bonsai and to this short video on pomegranates. In this video I'm going to be showing you the old fully grown pomegranate in my garden. I'm going to be doing some work on my dwarf pomegranate bonsai. And I'm going to show you a ground layer that I took from this pomegranate tree in 2017 and how it's getting on now. Enjoy the video. Now this pomegranate was already in the garden when we moved to the house. I really like it. It gives beautiful bright orangey red flowers and gives us fruit every year. Let's take a closer look. The fruit grows in clumps of up to 3, and these can get quite heavy and pull whole branches right down. That's actually quite convenient at picking time. See, there's a spider web on there, there's a mini spider in there. And I think that's pretty good because these fruits are really attractive to mealybugs, and the mealybugs just go right inside there and gorge on the actual fruit itself. Last year I saw thousands of ants marching up the trees and down the branches, and it turns out the ants were delivering mealybugs to the fruits. So if you see a lot of ants on your pomegranate tree or your bonsai, it's a sure sign that there's something bad going on. On the contrary, spiders are really good because they'll eat all the little critters. When these fruits get ripe, they go bright red, almost as red as those flowers. Sadly, the flowers only last a few days before the petals come off. There is something else that I've been considering for quite a few years now, is to do an air layer. So if we go into the tree here, the bark gets quite dry and then flakes off, you can see, but it does form this lovely pattern, and there's some quite good candidates here. It's getting quite thickly grown in the middle. Possible branches that I could air layer. Maybe next spring I'll have a go. Something interesting about the way these grow, and it's probably also the way I'm pruning it, is what I would call an orchard style. Now the orchard style isn't a well-defined bonsai style, but it's where you kind of prune the tree into a vase shape. The purpose of that is to make it so that when the fruit grows, it's growing around the edge and you can always reach it. So each year, each winter, I trim down the tops and I trim the middle, so hopefully the fruit will just be round the edge. And it seems to work. So here's my dwarf pomegranate bonsai, and you can actually see on it that I still have last year's fruit, and it's the middle of August now, so it's probably time to cut that fruit off. You can see it's already flowered this year as well, ready for this year's fruit. So let's have a close-up on that pomegranate. We'll take that off a bit later. I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 active flowers and one flower bud just about to pop out there. So it looks like I'll get another flower this year, which is good news. And let's look, a quick look from above. Although this has a typical S-shaped trunk, I'm actually developing the upper canopy into a vase shape, kind of mimicking a real pomegranate tree in the orchard style. I'm going to take this opportunity to prune off the 2 pomegranate fruits from last year, and we'll cut them open and see what they look like inside. I'm not really going to do much more pruning at all this year. If you want your pomegranate to flower and to give you fruit, let it grow. Don't prune it, because when you prune it, you're also pruning the terminal buds off your mini branches and you're basically taking the flower buds away. The other thing about pomegranates is that they don't seem to root that quickly. For a deciduous tree, a lot of other deciduous, I don't know, like crab apples and maples, they seem to root a lot. They fill out the pot much more quickly. But the pomegranate, you can get away with repotting every second year quite easily. And this is quite a small pot for a lot of foliage mass, for a lot of leaves. Let's go ahead and cut these off then. And cut it a little bit above, not too far. This one. Let's take the other. We'll take it just about here. We've got 2 mini branches, we'll take those back as well. They're not going to give me flowers now. One here that's sort of going right across the others. That's it. A very light summer pruning. So let's take a quick look inside these. Just gonna cut it straight open in the middle. Now let's cut the top off first. Right. A bit yucky. You can see there are still hundreds of seeds in there. The dwarf pomegranate is actually edible. I wouldn't eat this. This is the second year for these fruits, so I wouldn't eat these ones. You can eat them, but they're more bitter. They're not as sweet as full-grown pomegranate trees, so I wouldn't eat these. But these seeds, I think they're totally viable. They've got the DNA of this species of pomegranate. Let's see if this one's the same inside. You can see each seed is kind of protected by this little packet. It's how they are in the full-grown fruit as well. Of course, that stuff around them is kind of sugary gel. That's what tastes really good. I've stored these away in a sealed plastic bag in the fridge. And if you'd like me to send you some of these seeds, please just leave a comment with some kind of clue as how I can contact you, or alternatively you can contact me with an email which you can find in the about information of this channel. But if you have any interesting tree seeds that you can send me in return, I'll be super happy to receive them. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at a ground layer that I took in 2017 from the full-size pomegranate tree. I'm going to take it on the patio because it's really pretty hot out here. You can see the topsoil, the top dressing I use. As soon as it gets dry, it goes kind of white, and that makes it very easy to see when it's starting to dry. So here it is. This is the ground layer that I took. I'm just letting it grow. This is now 3 years since I took up the ground layer. Just letting it grow fat, just unchecked, so that we get as much leaf mass as possible and so that the lower trunk fattens up. Now what you can see is I've wired this early on into a typical bonsai S shape. And that's a trick that we sometimes do when the trunk is pretty taperless. So it's kind of makes nice movement in the trunk, and you can do it early on. Later on, the trunk gets too hard and fat and you can't do that. So I've already done that a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, you can still see the wiring scars from it, but they'll grow out eventually as it fattens up. I've also got a couple of very big sacrifice branches here and here. This one's actually underneath the main trunk, so when I eventually take this sacrifice off, there won't be too bad a scar, and it's just helping to fatten up the lower trunk there. And this one is actually a sucker from right down near the roots. So again, that's a sacrifice that I'll just probably chop off this winter. I think probably next year will still be too early to turn it into a bonsai, so we're looking at 2022 for this. Pomegranates are fully deciduous, but they have a funny trait that they seem to bud and leaf later than all of the other deciduous trees in spring. Sometimes you have to wait till April before they bud out. Their flowers come late. You can see it's August and they're only just flowering now, or just kind of within the last month. And also they lose their leaves after all the other deciduous trees too. So it's kind of like their calendar has shifted around a little bit compared to other deciduous trees. Anyway, they're great little trees to grow and they're pretty resistant. Only thing I'm going to do now is remove this wire. So just pop that back into the sun. And that brings me to the long-awaited tip of the week. And this week it is, quite simply, for a pomegranate tree, if you want to make sure it flowers and then it gives you fruit, don't prune the terminal buds. Don't prune your pomegranate tree if you want fruit. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do hit the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to Blue Sky Bonsai. See you next week.